Right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and it is official. All Bitcoin ETFs have been approved, so it's official. The US now has spot Bitcoin ETFs. It's been a long time coming, just over 15 years since the inception of Bitcoin, and we did it, okay? We did it. The jury is still out on exactly what this means in the short to medium term, right? Bloomberg out here predicting that 4 billion in spot Bitcoin ETF inflows are coming in today. In a matter of hours, we're going to see $4 billion of inflows. If that happens, okay, then no one's bullish enough. No one is bullish enough, and we will likely be at 60K by Friday. But there is still a whole heap of people that think this becomes a sell the news event. And maybe it does, right? At the end of the day, it's a market. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Right now, Bitcoin doesn't care, okay? Pretty funny, okay? Bitcoin doesn't care. And I want to say congratulations to the few of you that wrote in the comments of my YouTube videos and said that this thing may well be a non-event, okay? So far, you guys are right. So pat yourselves on the back if you were one of those 3 or 4 people that said you see this being a nothing burger. It certainly has the comedy factor for now. I would think that there's almost zero chance we don't get significant moves at the open today. A bunch of these ETF providers, remember, have set a fee structure that includes 0 fees on the first $1 to $5 billion or for the first 6 months. So I would think this is going to be an incentive for people to rush in on day one. A friend texted me this morning and told me that one of his no-coiner friends who had been mocking him for being degenerate, for being so heavily invested in crypto, has messaged him today to say he's looking to buy the ETF at the open. So let's see, right? One thing I do know is it's a wild time to be alive. It's certainly a milestone moment for Bitcoin. Like I said, if we do get anywhere close to 4 billion coming today, then the price is going to be 60K by Friday. So it's going to be a tell, okay? Because there's also no way $4 billion of selling is going to show up today. I'm convinced of that. So let's see, okay? The tell will be in the chart. The chart will be the truth as always. I like this chart here as well. When I'm talking about milestones, it's not just because Bitcoin has now become validated, okay? It's pretty difficult to say, yeah, well, Bitcoin's a scam or Bitcoin it's pretty hard to bad mouth it, right? It's pretty difficult when BlackRock and a whole heap of other major asset providers in the US now offer a spot Bitcoin ETF. It's pretty difficult to say that this is not an asset class that is for real anymore. So I like this chart a lot because not only is it the milestone to have the ETFs approved, but we've now crossed this portion from the innovators to the early adopters. So if you were in buying spot Bitcoin before the ETFs, pat yourself on the back. There's going to be a whole heap of new investors, institutions, pensions, hedge funds, insurance companies, family offices, sovereign wealth funds that are all now able to buy Bitcoin in size from the likes of BlackRock. And if indeed we are crossing into this early adopters phase, then you better believe that significantly higher Bitcoin prices are coming in the not too distant future. Now, I want to make this clear before I move on at all. This could certainly be a sell the news event. And what I mean by that is we could certainly see a little pump and then a big dump and a pullback. And if that happens, then realistically, we'll just say, well, it kind of makes sense that we have some kind of sell-off given where we are in the standard 4-year halving cycle. So I'm not ruling out the possibility that we do get a sell-off or a pullback to shake people out before the ETF people step in and start to accumulate in size. I'm not ruling that out, but I think we're missing the trees for the forest. I always mess up this expression when I say it, the trees for the woods for the trees. You get the point, right? Don't mess this up. Longer term, this is opening a floodgate to a tsunami of money. Longer term, this does pave the way for significantly higher Bitcoin prices. So even if we get a 30% pullback, it's a buy the dip opportunity because we're in a bull market. It's not a sell the news or sell the launch type of event. It's an uptrend. You buy the dips in the uptrend. You don't sell in the middle of a roaring bull market, especially as we could see billions and billions start to flow in over the coming months. We're also less than 100 days from the halving. Keep that in mind. So we've got plenty of stuff to look forward to. And I really like this from Raoul Pal. I think this is quite an objectively bad way to frame Bitcoin, but it's also quite a nice way to think about it. You could think of it like this, right? We're all seed investors to Bitcoin. So pre-2011, you'd be cast as vintage Series A investors in 2012, Series B investors in 2015, Series C if you got in at 2019, and Series D if you arrived this year. And the thing is just about to IPO with the launch of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Then, like in the mid-1990s, we get to see the demand from retail and institutions. Back then, It was the first few days around the actual IPO, often corrected or gyrated as people took profits on their allocations from the people that got in early, right? These will be the people that are convinced this is a sell the news or sell the launch type of event, only for us to shortly after rip higher as new demand came in, people who didn't get in pre-IPO. Like I said, there will be plenty of people waiting to get in, plenty of people that couldn't jump through the regulatory hurdles, plenty of people that were just too damn lazy or too scared, right? Too scared and afraid to take the risk. It's much harder, like I said, to bash Bitcoin now that BlackRock has a spot Bitcoin ETF. If you got in until this point, then you had to be able to justify that you knew something that most people didn't, right? You had to have conducted a vast amount of research that led you to be steadfast in your investment. That's the only way you can sit through this type of volatility. But now you get to be lazy, arrogant, smug, show up late and just buy the ETF. You don't have to worry about custody. You don't have to be sure of yourself that you've done the research, right? You can just say, well, BlackRock offers one, so it's good enough for me. And it's weird to talk about something so revolutionary such as Bitcoin in this context. This comment pertains more to the process of mass adoption than thinking it truly needs the authority's stamp of approval. It would have continued to become adopted in any event. I actually think of the ETF more as a trade deal between the fiat world and crypto land. This is exactly what I'm talking about, right? We have validated this asset as a real asset class now. Now, to me, it's always been a real asset class. To me, it's always been the only secure database on the planet. To me, it's always been the apex predator asset. And I'm sure that's true for many of you as well. But this is now indeed a trade deal between fiat world and crypto land. Next time somebody tells you that you're stupid or you don't know what you're talking about for holding Bitcoin, you can just tell them, hey, by the way, there's a BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF now. And you know they're going to run back, do some Googling and add some to their pension funds late, of course. So the impact of the World Trade Organization on China sucked an enormous amount of global capital and transformed China from an emerging market to the second largest economy on earth. And this is the start of the next phase. Bitcoin just got in to the World Trade Organization. So well done to everyone. Pat yourself on the back. I'm sure I wasn't the only one celebrating last night. But now be patient, right? Let the game play out and do not mess this up. I want to pause here and just quickly point out, because I know one or two people are going to be, there's always a smart ass in the comments, isn't there? There's always one that's going to be like, well, how is this good? Institutions have captured Bitcoin. Look, I'm not holding the Bitcoin ETF. I'm not even probably going to trade it, okay? I'll trade the miners as the proxy. And I continue to self-custody my own Bitcoin because I know what I hold and I understand the purpose, okay? So, yeah, obviously, self-custody is far superior to ETFs. But make no mistake about it, okay? This is going to bring a lot of people in because most people are too lazy to go through the hassle of self-custody and all of that good stuff. So, if you're about to comment one of those smart-ass comments, save yourself and me the time and the energy. Popular topic. Left translated cycle means major blow-off top this year. Absolutely not a prediction, just an observation, day by day, but not a new concept. How does it play? Well, a surge to 57 to 75k, followed by a really short but major 30 to 45% correction, then full tilt to September-ish. He says he hopes not, but you can see it's not just me that's talking about this left translated cycle, right? This is Bob Lucas, the king of cycles, talking about this is still an observation, not a prediction, an observation, and it's still not yet invalidated. So it's something to keep aware of, something to keep your eye on. If a whole heap of inflows come into the ETFs today and we start to rocket up to 50, 60k in a short time, then we have this correction and full tilt into September-ish. We do have to entertain this left translated cycle top. I wouldn't also be surprised if the top comes a lot earlier than September. He's saying September, but that does not mean that we couldn't top earlier than September. We could certainly top anywhere between now and September, October, and it would still classify as a left translated cycle. So just something to keep aware of. In other news, the ECB, the European Central Bank, is seemingly running scared at the moment. The digital euro is public money issued directly by the ECB. Bitcoin is different. It's a speculative asset that does not fulfill the characteristics of money, according to the ECB, right? According to the ECB. It's really strange. They seem to be running scared. And the reason I say this is, in 2023, they tweeted 0 times about Bitcoin. 0. And in the last couple of weeks, this is their 3rd or 4th tweet pertaining to Bitcoin, each time, of course, bad-mouthing it like this. I largely suspect the reason is that the euro has lost over 99% of its value against Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure this is keeping Christine Lagarde up at night. But I think, in all honesty, whilst Bitcoin ETF is incredibly bullish longer term, short, say medium to longer term, and whilst Bitcoin opens the floodgates for a whole heap of adoption, as we've already spoken about, whilst there could be some short-term volatility, and whilst equally we could see up-only mode as billions flow into the ETF, I honestly think we've kind of got bigger fish to fry this week. And when I say that, what I mean is CPI comes out today at 1:30 UK time or 8:30 Eastern time. And for me, this is the be-all, end-all, okay? Because if this thing is hot, if this thing comes in hot today, then one, it's going to upset the rates. We'll talk about that in a second. But two, if this thing comes in hot, probably everything is going to sell off, including Bitcoin. And then people are going to go, well, it told you it was a sell the news event. Yeah. But ultimately, it's going to come down to the CPI data. This thing comes in cold, and I would interpret this as a green light for the blow off top, the melt up, and for Bitcoin to do Bitcoin things. If that comes in lower today, I'll expect this to reprice to 99%. I'll expect March's rates to reprice somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% chance that we remain paused. So that would be, of course, 70 to 80% probability that we see cuts as early as March. And of course, if you've been here before, this all kind of feeds into this narrative, doesn't it? I largely suspect this is going to play out, but all of this is kind of conducive on seeing that colder CPI print coming today. That is to say, it's lower than forecast, lower than expectation, and the key thing is lower than the last month's readout. Assuming we can get all that, I think we can tick this off. I think we're going to go into berserk mode, and we should be looking at much higher prices, much quicker than most people are ready for. I posted this just before we get into some charts yesterday, and I said, look, as per my YouTube videos, I've seen enough to add to the S&P longs here. It's a bit risky prior to CPI, but it is the year of the camel after all. So let's take a look. Here it is, right? I added a position. Objectively speaking, this has not yet confirmed. So I need to see this follow through and break out above this local highs denoted by the red horizontal line. If we can do that, then we can take this off and say, yep, that count is correct. And we should have a full daily cycle ahead of us, something like this. However, until we clear this high denoted by the red horizontal line, then we are still susceptible for a rollover and a breakdown and a stop out. And if we do, then both positions will be closed out at this stop out level. And it will tell us that I actually had the count right the original time when we had the count here. And this indeed was a failed cycle, and this is about to roll over. So we're going to find out. We're going to find out soon enough. Of course, lower CPI print, full send, full port, and higher CPI print. And we probably had the count right the first time, and we're going to do this. But sometimes in trading, it's nice to get in slightly early and see what happens ahead of time. Overall, long and strong continue to push. The Nasdaq holding up pretty well. Look, back above its all-time high level. The Dow Jones still not stopped me out, and I choked the stop up. So happy days there. I think if we can continue to push off on lower CPI, then what I will do is reset this trend line to here, and that becomes our new line in the sand going forward. Of course, lower CPI print should see the Russell 2K start to reverse and push up to the upside back through this range break, and this will indeed be confirmed as a type 3 breakout with a hard retest. Bitch. Oil still pushing this short, so not much to say about that. Stop is choked up. Gold still boring, still not really confirming a daily cycle low. I guess if you were interested in taking a long for gold, you'd want to wait for a breakout of that, and we can mark wherever the swing comes as the daily cycle low, and the trade would look something like this. Personally, not interested unless we can break that all-time high, and I still kind of, the more we chop around here, the more I favor this yellow scenario. So we will see, right? We'll see soon enough. What about Bitcoin? Here it is, okay? The ball of all balls, kind of a messy chart, but it's still pretty much valid, right? We're still more or less following my yellow squiggle. We still have not invalidated this idea by taking out that cycle low. We are still making higher lows all the way across and higher highs, aren't we? So difficult for me to be bearish when the chart looks like that. Long and strong continue to push. Let's see. Today will be the tell, right? Today will be the tell. Lower CPI print and ETF inflows, and we probably see this. And the inverse is true as well, right? So last couple of things to point out are the DXY. This, at the moment, is a breakout retest looking for resumption higher, okay? At the moment, this is objectively what the chart is pointing at, but it does not mean that we couldn't see that lower CPI print, the rollover, and my yellow squiggle come to fruition. So hoping that's what plays out. Of course, if this plays out, then happy days. Big risk on moment, big blow off top moment, easy mode for a little while. And if not, then we will have to adapt, pivot, be flexible, and adjust to the market, listen when it speaks. Look at the US 10-year yield finally as well, starting to roll over again, isn't it? So is this a bull flag, right? Is this a swing low, a bull flag looking for a resumption higher? Or is this perhaps, I reckon, probably if I draw this line here, well, okay, look, interesting, right? Interesting. We've got potentially breakout retest looking for that resumption. So it's the same as the DXY, right? Hopefully what we can get is instead of this, right, that would be pretty bad for risk. That would be very, very bad for risk. Hopefully what we can get instead is a lower CPI print and a resumption of the downtrend. So like I've been saying over and over again, it is a really big week. I still think we got bigger fish to fry because the ETF, it doesn't really matter in the very short term, does it? There are much bigger things ahead for Bitcoin. But in the short term, what does matter is the CPI data. So look out on my Twitter. I'll be posting that later. If you're unfamiliar with all of what I've been saying, or you're unfamiliar with my work, then go back and watch the video from Saturday where I did a deep dive explaining all of this CPI stuff and rates and exactly why I'm interpreting the markets the way I am. Everyone else, long and strong, baby. For the members, let's push through CPI, let the dust settle tomorrow, and I think we'll have true direction. I'm more than happy to continue pushing my positions, and I will update you if not. Don't get shaken out through CPI. Remember, a lot of games get played. So celebrations this weekend as we officially have the spot Bitcoin ETFs. I hope you're all doing well in life. Until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.